It's that time of Path of Exile again, ladies and gentlemen, where Spin2Win is back on the menu. Let me explain to you Champion, Cyclone, Leaguestart. So, first of all, you might be asking, why not Slayer? Slayer's like super good. That's like the Cyclone Ascendancy class. Okay, let me explain to you. Champion got giga buffed. It is actually kind of hard to articulate just how much Champion got buffed. So right now, the Fortitude passive gives you simply 15 fortification. If you did not know, Fortify is a mechanic that gets normally up to 20 stacks, and you simply take 1% less damage from hits per stack. So the Fortitude node gives you 15 fortification all the time. You don't have to generate the stacks or anything, but instead of 20 max, you now have 15. So the first change is that this node now gives you your maximum fortification. Again, normally the max is 20, but you have other sources of max fortification, such as these nodes over here, +1, +1, +1, +3. So you have +6 there. There's also an item, which we'll get to in 1 second. And on top of that, the node behind Fortitude, which is called Unstoppable Hero, right now says nearby allies have fortification equal to yours. That aspect was moved over to the first node, Fortitude. So now Unstoppable Hero gives 3% more armor and evasion per fortification above 20, and then 3% increased attack speed per fortify above 20. So again, as a baseline, you can very easily get 26 max fortification on the passive tree, which means Unstoppable Hero at a baseline is going to be giving you 18% more armor and evasion and 18% increased attack speed. Doesn't sound that crazy, but again, we'll get to just how we can scale things up in 1 second. Furthermore, this is another giga buff, and really the reason why I'm choosing to go champion here is that the Worthy Foe Ascendancy passive skill, which is this node right here, you can clearly see that it requires you to take Conqueror to then go into Worthy Foe. That is, number one, no longer the case, so now you can spec into Conqueror just for 2 points instead of 4, a giga change for Ascendancy classes in general, and now has the taunt on hit. So Worthy Foe right here will now give these stats and let you proc them with the 100% chance to taunt on hit for 2 Ascendancy points instead of 4. It is insane how much this class was buffed. So with these nodes in total, you're going to have these two here. You're going to have Worthy Foe for 2 points. And then the last point is going to be Master of Metal. You get so many more stats than what you could have gotten on the old champion. And then in terms of Cyclone, well, we're choosing it because it's Cyclone. Spin2Win. Who doesn't like Spin2Win, ladies and gentlemen? You're going to be using Cyclone of Tumult for single target damage and then regular Cyclone for clearing. It's going to be kind of annoying having to swap them out. But for the most part, as long as you're not doing pinnacle boss content, you can just use regular Cyclone. However, for the numerical calculations inside of the path of building here, I've used Cyclone of Tumult because, again, if you're doing any kind of actual bossing, you're going to be using this version. So the net result of these changes is 11% more damage. That's the base damage increase. 11% more attack speed. That is the base attack speed increase. Less mana cost. It's because the mana cost just went down. 4% more attack speed. This is separate from this one because this one is actually the scaling attack speed per stage. That was also changed. And then just for clear speed purposes, I included the less movement speed multiplier, and then the increased strike range is essentially what you're going to be getting from the new Cyclone, regular Cyclone, 20% max quality. Gives you a 3.4 meter radius in Blood Stance, but you'll be using Sand Stance while you're clearing. You actually have 3.7 meter attack radius, which looks something like this. Not too shabby. So if that's all you needed to hear, check the POB in the description below. There's, of course, a leveling section inside of there if you need some extra tips. And otherwise, let's break things down a little bit, starting with the config screen here. Now, the reason why we're using max power charges is because we have Assassin's Mark on hits. This is just guaranteed to proc on any tanky foe. Frenzy charges from Blood Rage, and also the Sword Mastery, which gives you an 8% chance to get a Frenzy charge on hit. Endurance charges are from Enduring Cry. We can simply pop this whenever we see a boss. It'll get you max endurance charges, and they'll sustain for at least like 10 seconds. So as long as you're pressing this every few seconds, you'll be good to go. Fortification stacks 26, again, because we have +6 from the passive tree, and we always are fortified because of champion. 30 rage stacks, you get 1 rage every 0.5 seconds, so you're going to be in combat at least for 15 seconds on most bosses, so we're capping that out. Have you been hit recently? Of course you've been hit recently. You're playing a melee build, let's be real here. War Cry, yep, we're using Enduring Cry. Impaled an enemy, yep, we're playing Cyclone. We're going to be impaling everything every second. Infusion is active, of course it is, because we're channeling Cyclone. Pride, max aura effect, of course, because we're in combat. We're actually in Blood Stance here. I forgot to change that, so the damage is going up a little bit. Enemy taunted, we're playing champion. We always taunt. Brittle Ground, now normally I don't like configuring Brittle Ground for things, but in this case, again, we're playing Cyclone. What do you do on Cyclone? You spin on top of the enemy. That's right. So almost guaranteed that you'll have your brittle ground up all the time. And if you don't, it is a significant loss to damage, but it's not like the end of the world. So I'll leave that toggled for now. We are playing the literal spin on top of enemy skill. So it's going to be up more often than not. And then finally, Intimidation is from an Eldritch Implicit on the gloves, which should be pretty easy to get. The 15% chance to intimidate for 4 seconds on hit. Speaking of gear, we are using a quite modest weapon here, 736 DPS two-handed sword with percent fizz, flat fizz. I think they're both tier 2. tier 2 attack speed, and then tier 2 crit chance on top of that. No crit multi or anything extra on top of that. No hybrid percent fizz as well. I think this is a pretty reasonable sword. If you know what you're doing, you can pick one up very early on into the league, no problem. As for the gear here, you notice that I have the highest base type possible. I kind of forgot about that, and I was too lazy to go back and change it. So I've simply removed all of the percent increases on the items themselves, and these should represent fairly obtainable early gear. And you'll notice for everything, I have included the double Eldritch implicit. This is just to tell you what to look for. You absolutely do not need all these implicits right away. So the first thing with the helmet here, you definitely are going to want that reduced mana cost with attacks. It's going to help significantly. On top of that, a little bit of suppress. We actually have a ton of suppress on the tree. So we have entrench right there with the extra node going into it. We have inveterate, and then we also are taking intuition and quick step. Quick step is valuable in any build really, but especially with the Cyclone, you need more movement speed. Obviously, it's going to feel way better. So I think we have like 72%, 77% spell suppress on just the passive tree alone. So you need very little spell suppress on your gear to make up for that. Also, you can see here we are giga overcapped in resistances, so feel free to mix and match, put them where they go. And I'm only saying all this as a disclaimer, really, because there's a lot of people that go, actually, this gear's like crazy to get on day 1 and day 2 of the league, bro. It's like, okay, dude, it's supposed to be a template for you to follow. It's not supposed to be exactly the kind of gear you're going to have, right? The Conquest Lamellar, obviously, you're going to want as high armor and evasion as possible on your body armor. It's going to be the top priority. There's actually no life roll in here. It has crafted mods. Also, for every single piece of gear, it either has an empty modifier or a crafted modifier. I have not filled up all of these modifiers with, just innate mods on the pieces of gear. I feel like that's pretty valuable and pretty fair. For example, here on the body armor, we have no life roll, and that lets us take the 15% increased max life mastery. Of course, you do not need a +1 max res Eldritch implicit, but the 10% fizz taken as fire is quite valuable and pretty easy to hit. For the gloves, again, you're really going to get that intimidate on hit. You don't need that spell suppress implicit. It's just pretty easy to cap your suppress there. You can also just, use one of the other suffixes that you have. Again, we are giga overcapped on resistances. Boots, of course, brittle ground is really the only implicit that you want. And then on top of that, the movement speed roll on the boots themselves is quite important. You can also substitute brittle ground for action speed or even just straight up movement speed. If you don't have a lot of currency to deal with and you have not, been hitting the brittle ground, you get movement speed, you get action speed, you can keep one of those as well. Amulet, anointing kinetic impacts is super cheap. Violet, Azure, Amber, you might even get that on your first Blight run yourself. You can buy these for very cheap from players, so that's basically a free anoint. That is quite good. The rings here, just get amethyst bases for the chaos res. It's insanely valuable. I just duplicated the rings here. They have identical stats. You don't need plus 100 intelligence. You don't need that much whatsoever, but you will need quite a bit. Remember, Assassin's Mark, I think it's 98. Yeah, you need 98 intelligence for Assassin's Mark max level. You don't need it to be max level. You can put it like level 17, level 16, have significantly less intelligence requirement, but a little bit less damage on top of that. Keep that in mind. Also, I forgot to say that you only get the power charge on hit from Assassin's Mark with 20% quality. Actually, I guess 4% quality gives you a 1% chance to get it, but you want to get 20% quality on Assassin's Mark for those power charges. Makes a big difference. And then the one and only unique for this build for the League Start scenario is Perseverance. This is a T4 unique. I don't care how many people are going to be playing champion. I don't care how expensive this belt's going to get relative to its base price. There's no way this belt is over like a divine. Maybe 2 divines. Maybe. And that is a significant overstatement in my opinion. It's a T4 unique. It drops like candy. You will see this thing everywhere. It's not going to be expensive. Don't worry. It is very easy to obtain. Flasks are not enabled, of course. And then for jewels, we're just using 2 stats, crit multi and percent life. So if that sounds good, again, POB is in the description below. But for one last thing, let's cover here an expensive endgame setup. This is obviously not intended for the League Start scenario. But if you're looking at what you maybe can do, I haven't really solidified exactly this is going to be like the giga endgame setup. I don't even have cluster of jewels going in this, for example. But you're looking at something like this, about 13 million damage per second. Looks pretty good to me. This is, of course, using the Celestial Brace. Now, these gloves drop from Uber Exarch, I believe. Uber Exarch is not going to be obtainable for a lot of people very early on. I would say within the first 4 or 5 days of League, you'll probably start seeing a lot of these guys pop up on the market, but these are insanely good. So the Celestial Brace, the most important roll is obviously plus max fortification. It rolls from 1 all the way up to 10. Obviously, you're going to want 10. Now, a max roll item is going to be extremely expensive, but let's say these gloves are like 2 divines, 3 divines. If you buy one for 1 divine because it's like +1 max fortification or even less, it might be worth it to buy one for 100 chaos or 1 divine and then just slap one of your own divines on it and try and get like at least +7 max fortification. Remember, every single stack of fortification gives you 3% more armor and evasion and 3% attack speed. That is insanity. So definitely you're going to want to get Celestial Brace at some point. This would be the first like big ticket upgrade that you want to purchase. And then right after that, I would look to get the replica badge Badge of the Brotherhood. This is actually significantly cheaper than the Celestial Brace historically, and I don't think it'll get that much more expensive given the new league, but we'll have to see. And then this one simply says you have +1 max fortification per endurance chart. Now, key thing here is that you have to get a Thread of Hope to save some passive points. Thread of Hope lets you allocate skills in this ring without them actually being connected to your tree. And you want to get Disciple of the Unyielding, because it's important to note that Replica Badge of the Brotherhood says +1 max fortification per endurance charge, meaning you have to have the endurance charges to get the max fortification. If you don't have them, you're not going to get anything, and no one's going to be pressing Enduring Cry during maps, right? That sounds terrible. So that's why you want Disciple of the Unyielding for an 8% chance on kill to gain an endurance charge. That will be 100% uptime while you're in maps. And then again, for bosses and single target situations, just press Enduring Cry to generate those charges. So that is why you want to get Disciple of the Unyielding. So that's plus Thread of Hope for that very large ring to get Disciple of the Unyielding with Replica Badge of the Brotherhood. And then finally, the rare gear is just like marginally better than the other gear. The sword obviously has more DPS on it. Whatever your budget is, you can just get a better and better and better sword. Just keep scaling the build, whatever you want to do. And then finally, Watcher's Eye, literally just one modifier. The Impale last 2 additional hits while using Pride is extremely powerful with the champion. All right, other than that, I think I've yapped long enough with the build. I am very excited to play this and try it out. I'm going to be leveling with Sunder. I have an entire build guide in this build guide, actually, in the description. It's right here, this POB right here. This is a dedicated guide for Sunder leveling and then swapping into Earth Shatter, but it is written up for the Marauder class. However, if you kind of know what you're doing, you can easily adapt this POB here to the leveling POB here, if you need more info with Sunder. Otherwise, just follow this rough outline of the tree, right? I'd go over here and grab Kinetic Impacts, go up here, get Butchery, and then I'd probably swing all the way over here, get Slaughter and Cleaving, and then go back through, pick up like Harvester of Foes. You probably want that life as you go over here, right, to this, get that life on the way, and then just go through here. It should be pretty self-explanatory for the most part. Do not forget Spirit of War with the 12% increased mana reservation efficiency. That will make your life so much easier while you're leveling up. And yeah, other than that, check the notes tab out. Again, there's a separate POB written up for leveling purposes. If you have any questions about the build specifically, it's literally just Cyclone, spin in a circle, kill things. Shouldn't be that hard, but you can drop a comment and I will do my best to reply. Other than that, thank you for watching. Check out my stream, twitch.tv/WoolieGaming, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.